I want to give a quick backstory of it. And actually, let me share this picture here. I guess I'll go like that. Yeah. All right. So,
Why'd they release this picture of the juvenile or even give his name?
because in Texas, 17 is considered adult if you're charged.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, oh, was that it? Was that it? No, no.
Can I make a quick summation?
Yeah.
All right. The way the defense might lay this out is okay. He comes into the tent. He finds his property being taken. He gets it back, and they try to take it again from him. That's a robbery. In other words, the taking of the property of another by use of force or violence. He resisted the robbery, which is a felony, and that would morph the whole thing, the killing, into a felony murder situation. If you have a felony murder thing, the people who implemented the underlying felony become responsible for the consequences. For instance, if there is a proprietor, a manager, or an employee in a liquor store, and some people come in to hold up the liquor store, and there's a shootout, and one of the bullets fired by the proprietor, the manager, or an employee miscarries and kills an innocent person on the sidewalk. Well, under the felony murder thing, the employee, manager, or whatever is not charged with the homicide. The people who are charged with the homicide are the ones that started the robbery. So in this case, you have a party that starts a robbery. Two, allegedly, you have a killing that results by the would-be victim of the robbery. So what happens is, under the felony murder theory, the person that's charged with the homicide and the robbery is the survivor. In this case, one of the would-be, should-be co-defendants to the robbery, if that's the way the case is cast. The whole thing about the $1 million bond is absolutely ridiculous, because under the Fifth Amendment, bonds shall be reasonable, and reasonable has been interpreted for the last 230 years by the U.S. Supreme Court and most appellate courts as meaning simply enough to ensure that a person shows up until the charges are disposed of. No more, no less, but there is a trend that the liberal side has set up to punish people who are charged. And under American law, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. An indictment or a charge is presumed under American law to be an accusation only, and a mistaken one. So there you go. What you have is a DA's office that seems to have relied upon some political pressure so that the elected DA is returned to his job, his stable job, which in today's market, when it comes to lawyers, is a rare thing, because few lawyers actually can earn a decent living when they practice law. Some do because they work for large firms, and large firms act on volume and reputation, even if they don't deliver a damn thing. So
So
we have the games that are played with that.
let me give a little bit of background here. So it said the incident happened 10 a.m. Wednesday, April 2nd, during a track meet at the Kukendall Stadium. The Frisco Police Department said an altercation between two students identified as McCaff and Anthony resulted in Anthony stabbing McCaff in the chest. Police said by the time officers arrived at the scene, McCaff was unconscious and not breathing.
Responsive. Yeah.
So the athletic trainers there performed CPR. McCaff was transported to a hospital. He was pronounced dead. Witnesses told police that Austin McCaff and Karmelo Anthony did not know each other. One witness said they were with McCaff under their school tent during the track meet when someone they didn't know, identified as Anthony, came over to them. The witness said McCaff told Anthony to leave. Anthony allegedly grabbed his bag, opened it, and reached inside. Touch me and see what happens. A witness said McCaff touched Anthony, and another witness said McCaff grabbed Anthony. Police said that that's when Anthony pulled out the knife, stabbed McCaff once in the chest, and ran away. Um, and then once the arresting officer said, I have the alleged suspect in custody, Anthony reportedly told the officer, I'm not alleged, I did it. Anthony then said that McCaff put his hands on me after he asked him not to. After Anthony was placed inside the police vehicle, he asked an officer if McCaff was going to be okay and if what happened could be considered self-defense. Now, attorneys, Anthony's
Stop right there a second. He went wrong. He ran his mouth off too much. He had the witnesses going for him. But if he did that, then what happens is he just quasi removed his defense, because self-defense says you can't escalate the force used unless there is disparate strength between the person who is attacked and the person who is the attacker. In other words, a little old lady could potentially use some deadly force to stop a real strong young guy from doing her in. But two young, strong guys are not supposed to escalate physical force where it is of non-lethal violence into using a weapon and becoming lethal violence. See, he shot his mouth off. He was doing good, and then he opened his mouth. So now he gave them some cause to say, okay, this is a homicide where the situation was escalated. He's an athlete. Why didn't he just respond with physical force? And if the assailant escalated it beyond what was an exchange of physical force, unarmed physical force, then he could escalate to match it.
So you saying that
In other words, two guys are having a fist fight and one of them pulls out a gun and shoots the other. That's going to be a murder case because the violence got escalated to another level that was uncalled for.
Mhm.
If one guy pulls out a gun, the other guy pulls out a gun and shoots him, fine. If it's a felony murder, like I was describing, okay. But he ran his mouth off and said, I did it, and he got me scared because he went in. That's not an excuse.
He shouldn't have said nothing, but
Should have
again,
kept his mouth shut. So,
but
yeah.
what that can that be used against him?
Yeah, it can. Anything you say can and may be used in evidence against you. The Fifth Amendment. You have a right to remain silent. You have a right to consult with an attorney. You have no obligation to make a statement, but if you do, anything you say can and may be used against you.
Well,
How many times have you heard this on television? You have a right to remain silent, but it doesn't seem to settle in with a lot of people, even those who ought to know better. Fannie Willis, district attorney for Fulton County / Atlanta, Georgia, was ignorant enough to fail to take into consideration when she didn't have to testify, I'm going to take the stand, and got up there and implicated herself, a whole lot of other people.
Well, I think the difference there is she's a DA lawyer. This is 17-year-old kid.
Yeah, well, they used to. I mean, I didn't learn this in law school. I learned this in the 5th grade. I was 10 years old. I mean, what happened to the retards? They look at all of these motion pictures. You have a right to remain silent. All of these things where the gangsters and thugs get rousted by the police, you have a right to remain silent. The Miranda rights. This isn't anything new. This is from 1962. How long is that? That is 63 years ago. Granddad, great granddad, dad, mom, great granny, granny, and ignorant fool that doesn't pay any attention to the world is trying to shoot his mouth off and talk his way out. See, most crimes art solved like they say in the movies. Somebody ran their big mouth off and told somebody. I've got 6 defendants in front of me on a homicide case. You know how they called them?
How?
It was a drive-by. 6 people, 5 people got shot. 3 died. You know how they called them? The damn fools went to Kinko and did 250 copies of the news article and autographed them on the back saying, "We did it," and passed them out to friends, associates, and people they were trying to brag to. That's how stupid they get. 97+% of all people in American penitentiaries pled guilty. Just a little more than 2% got found guilty by a jury. Out of that 97+%, the truth of the matter is 84 to 87% confessed.
So, okay, so getting back to Karmelo Anthony, his lawyer, he in a statement released Monday by the family's attorney, they expressed sadness that a life was lost, and they did give their condolences to the Metcalf family. This will certainly be a long roll ahead. And during this challenging time, we ask for prayers for both families, and we ask for your patience and respect for the legal process as we seek the truth. Defense attorneys Billy Clark and Kim Cole said they are committed to making sure Anthony is given a fair trial and are seeking a reduction of Anthony's excessive $1 million bond. He is charged with first-degree murder. Now,
that's not first-degree murder either. That's a crime of passion. They're going to say the intent can be formed in an instant. Yeah, but that's not it. They're overcharging. This is a second degree of voluntary manslaughter situation. Now, I say this, youth are stupid, incredibly stupid. I say that from the perspective of having gotten the youngest person in the whole world on a death row off 23 minutes before they were going to execute him. When he was 15 years, 2 weeks old, I got a stay of execution from the governor of Arkansas and from the Arkansas Supreme Court at the same time. The defendant that I was representing was accused of killing 3 people when he was in the 7th grade. The interesting thing about it is one of the grounds I got to get a unanimous reversal of the conviction was that they had an all-white jury. There were some other things that went on in there that too many people were afraid to bring up, but I did, and I filed a 12,482 page hardbound printed book of a brief where we detailed capital punishment. And if you want to hear an atrocity, the youngest person executed in the United States in the 20th century was executed in 1934. It was a 10-year-old girl for stealing allegedly 14 cents from a 5 and dime store. She was tried before a jury as an adult on Monday and hung on Wednesday. That was in Arkansas.
Well, there is a fundraiser, and so far they were able to raise $200,000 for Karmelo Anthony. I guess it's
quite sufficient for defense. The charges that they are levying upon clients today are absolutely ridiculous. And I hope it's a good lawyer, because generally a public defender's office has more resources and a better trained staff than most private attorneys. And most private attorneys who get involved in things like this do it kind of as a gratuitous thing because they get notoriety, and that'll build up their client base and they'll make more money.
So I wanted to ask you this.
The right thing. When I got this young person, the youngest in the world, off death row, I did not charge him a dime. I did it pro bono and put up 50 grand of my own money. That was to pay for the transcripts and stuff.
Oh, and you know what? You don't see a lot of that. If
not
really,
because they have forgotten that this damn thing is a profession and they've turned it into a business. And lawyers owe back because of the expertise, training, and education, they owe the public because they are the gatekeepers that keep the system honest. They are the ones that make America work. They make the rules. They have the rules, see to it that the rules are applied. And when somebody gets out of order here with this, they do what is necessary to make sure that if somebody is in fact convicted, due process of law transpired so you don't get lawfare in disregard for the Bill of Rights and things that would make the United States a totalitarian mess instead of a republic that has rules where it is a nation of law, not of men. In other words, the laws control, not the whims of the people that administer things, or at least it's supposed to, as nearly as possible.
So I want to ask you this question, boys to men, right? What is going on? What do you think is going on in the high schools with the kids nowadays? You know,
They're,
with huh?
they're punks. They don't duke it out, bam, bam, bam. They don't take out bullies. And the bullies are sissies. They like to pop caps on people instead of going toe to toe. And see, oh my God, we have to protect the children from bullying, and it's up to the teachers and the police and the parents. No, it's not. It's never been in human history. It's up to the kids. It's a rite of passage. So we don't encourage our kids to take on bullies. They get protected. They feel entitled, and they have a whole lot of punks that get real scared and they pull knives out and stab somebody instead of busting them right in the mouth. We forgot. And it's not a racial thing either. White, black, brown, red, yellow. You remember Back to the Future where McFly goes back in time and he runs into his dad when dad is in high school. And dad has been bullied since that time until McFly's presence by Biff. And he causes dad to stand up. Boom. Dad knocks Biff's out because he gets in a good blow right to his chin. And when McFly gets back to the present, guess what? Biff works for dad, and Biff is dad's flunky because dad stood up to the bully. We don't teach that anymore.
Well, here's the thing. This situation is a tragedy all the way around. A young man, a young man lost his life, and another young man whose life is going to be devastated, is going to be completely changed and not for the good. They're both was on track to going to college on scholarships, and they were both good students, and tragic tragedy
Happens
happened.
all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's life is life, but I'm just saying when
I mean, I handled one
this is what
tenth.
made national news, but I'm pretty sure this is not the first incident. But the
This
what I'm
isn't. It isn't.
is
I'm
not,
sorry for
so
interrupting.
I think
Go
so.
ahead.
What I'm trying to say here is that it's too much of a trend. This kid, we have to stop this trend of this type of violence. So it's one thing to fight, with your fists, right? Because that's never going to change as far as bullying and fighting, and you don't like this person, I don't like that person. But when it gets to whether it's guns or knives, or when it gets to that, like it's too much of a trend, and that is what needs to change.
They're
So
sissies. They don't know how to stand toe to toe. Young man, you're applying to the court for probation or relief from service of the full extent of the sentence that you have agreed to pursuant to the arrangement that your lawyer has negotiated with the state. Would you please answer the court and advise it or tell it why you did this? And
so
they get off into it, and you say, well, why didn't you stand up and go toe to toe and have a fist fight? Yo, Yana, I'm too pretty. I'll rely on the ladies to take care of me. I can't have no scars on my face.
So here's the thing though, because now, a lot of people are saying that for why is the bell high? It shouldn't be that high.
Bill shouldn't be
And
that.
also George Zimmerman, you have the Daniel Penny, well, Daniel Penny was arrested, but then he was released, I think, out on bail. George Zimmerman,
I
he
mean,
was released on bail as well. So
yeah.
they were all
I mean,
arrested. They were
for a
arrested. Yeah.
manslaughter case, I mean, you don't set $1 million bail on it. That's a new thing. That just gets absolutely obscene, and it becomes pretrial punishment when a person hasn't had benefit of
No,
due
no.
process.
But the question I want to ask: when you look at Kyle Rittenhouse, George Zimmerman, Daniel Penny,
Rittenhouse should never have
no,
been
let me
charged.
ask the question. They
Yeah,
were all arrested, right? And then they were bailed out.
yeah,
Yes, correct.
essentially.
No, no, no.
Some
I'm just saying they were arrested. They were hit with a bell, and then they bonded out.
a reasonable bail. In other words, what's going to assure that this person show up for the remainder of the proceedings? That's all that's
Right.
necessary.
It's just that the difference with this one, yeah, like you said, it's too high, and they try to punish you with these high bells. But what it shouldn't be that
The
high.
DA is playing politics. He wants to get reelected to his cushy job.
And you're going to use this.
Yeah, he is. He wants
First
to
of all,
be
and then
shown to
honestly,
come
that's
on
that's
crime.
it's bad. It's getting bad press, but this kid has no prior. So yeah,
I know it's ridiculous.